I love the sin, innit? But for some reason, when Kevin was called gay, he was wrong.
That's interesting. Actually, that's interesting. That moves into the next point, the talking point, just nicely, right? Because I was wondering that, you know, the kind of idea, somebody asked me this question, right? Recently, we was talking about the passing of Kevin but just talking about the manosphere in general, right? And they were saying that they was questioning the idea, you know, can men have standards or even question women, you know, try to hold women accountable in good faith, as to use the phrase, right? Not out of bad mind, not attacking, not vilifying, but just, can they have certain standards? And can they question women and hold women accountable without being subject to sign language? Sign language meaning shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. That kind of pathology of, if I disagree with you, I need to use one of these techniques. It kind of links into something that Jordan Peterson spoke about when he said, he was talking about conflict amongst men, and that sometimes it involves aggression or the threat of aggression or the threat of violence. So that's how men kind of regulate men in the sphere, that this may happen, but women are more known for using certain methods that might involve gossip or slander or destroying somebody's reputation, or, you know, using certain passive aggressive, but, you know, verbal. Their violence or their aggression is acted out verbally. So I'm wondering if that sign language is kind of like linked into that. So I'm very much interested to get your feedback, your thoughts, your analysis. What say you, my bro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the sign language, is to do with the fact that we know in psychology we have what's called defense mechanism, and the defenses are so deep because the person wants to protect themselves from the trauma, a submerged trauma within themselves, and repressed feelings. What is easier for them to create a defense mechanism so they don't need to be held accountable for their own actions. So they feel they almost feel they can do whatever they want and have no regards for consequence whatsoever. But the reality is, and then when it's called out by an external factor, that external factor becomes object of their hatred, because it's easier for them to project their hatred onto someone else than accept that they themselves have caused the damage to themselves or are victims of the trauma and need to deal with the trauma. And this is what women have done collectively as a group of society, and the media has created this image. So, for example, look at this case now with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp and Amber, what's his name? Something Heard, his ex-wife. Anyway, this woman, for years, said that this guy allegedly said that he was an abuser, a wife beater, and for years the world believed it. Now he's got his day in court. He's allegedly proved evidence to the contrary. Now, instead of women saying, oh my gosh, you know, men are abused as well, and it's equality for men, he stood up as a man and he spoke out about it. What they're saying is that there's article saying how the supporting Johnny Depp cause has put in domestic violence back hundreds of years. If Johnny Depp wins, that means that this is a bad blow for women's rights. So this woman has said this stuff about this guy. Amber has said this stuff about him for years. All the women supported him, everybody's on his side. The minute his side comes out the story now, no one cares what happened to him, because this thing where she threw a finger at him, cut off his finger, abused him, punched him, slapped him, all the things, classical stuff that men do in DV situations, she did to him, allegedly. Mm-hmm. What's happening now, they're all they're concerned about, or even they're like, so what if she did it? They're almost writing an article saying, we don't care that she did that. Well, this man now is going to come and expose the fact that there are women out there who are cougars, who are predatory on males. Like, men don't come forward and say we've been sexually abused by women, because you know what, it's embarrassing, right? But the reality is there's statistics to prove, and the data's been in, and I've done the research, that lots of young boys have been sexually abused by their mother's friends or by school teachers, or touched up inappropriately, and they've been told, don't be a sissy, don't be a puffer, don't be a weak, you know, you're weak. Like up with Johnny Depp. He actually tipped himself after his alleged wife at the time, Amber Heard, was slapping him and kicking him and punched him. So she punched him, sorry, or hit him, because you punched me in the face. Because she goes, I'll grow up. So what if it was a punch? You're a man, you know? What, you know what I mean? Who's going to believe you anyway? You're a man. It's on tape. So Kevin was just putting it out there and saying, there's some guys in the black community that needs to be thrown out with men and women. He wasn't just beating a woman. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this was to uplift us, to bring us together, get black women to acknowledge why they're losing their man to white women, other races, so they could stop the flow, stem the damage, stop the hemorrhaging. But instead of going taking the advice of the doctor, right? They went they went back to their trauma and back to their vices and put their head in the sand. And this is not going to wash today because the genie's out the bottle.
Okay. That's food for thought. I guess the last talking point that I wanted to touch on for today is around the idea of the young Black male or young Black men, and that the profound impact of the self-image, and that the self-image of Black men generally in the Western Hemisphere is, like somewhat with drill music in the UK, gangster rap in America, the thug, the menace, right? That even our young people have drunk the Kool-Aid, and even they are now acting out, this kind of destructive image, and it's like it's a substitute masculinity, like almost like the qualities that we would sort of associate with real men growing up, about having men that have integrity or that are reliable or that are courageous, or willing to step outside of the box or hold themselves accountable. There's different qualities that men may have. Men that have respect for womanhood, they're visionary goal setters, they got self-determination. These kind of qualities have been kind of almost put on hold. And that as long as we can create a thug or a tough guy image, then that's the real masculinity. I think that there's an absence of rites of passage, and that's a big problem. That's a big, nature abhors a vacuum. So you're gonna get a formal rites of passage. So you're gonna get some kind of system what brings young men, even if it's in a kind of like illegitimate fashion, into quote unquote manhood. And Kevin made an interesting point when he said to the ladies that forget Black men. So Black men are the devil, they're no good. He used the pejorative term or the F word to say F men. What are you gonna do for the boys? And I thought that was really interesting because of something you spoke about earlier, some time ago, about don't want no scrubs, nothing going on but the rent, and it's kind of like on deprecating, and this deluge of, kind of like attacks from the feminine, from the divine feminine, right, on the male image, but how that would have impacted the minds and the self-psychology of young boys, underage boys that would have been born in that society, and that's all they heard at the what do you call it again? The hairdressing salon, or when their mum was talking in the back room to a friend about somebody they was dating and it went wrong, whatever. All these kind of conversations and feedback about men, Black men in particular, that boys shouldn't really hear, about how that would have affected them. What's your thoughts about that, my bro?
Well, again, just look at what happened in the previous passing. I've never seen so much victory and hatred for a Black man, right? But someone like George Zimmerman, yeah, he's actually on tour now. George Zimmerman.
That's mad.
Yeah,
that's mad.
Garbage is on tour, signing God of us. How come there's no smoke for him from Black women? Killed Trayvon Martin. The guy that killed, got no smoke, the guy that killed George Floyd. How come he didn't get no smoke? But someone, a Black man that just held Black women to account, who said, you're beautiful without the wig, you're beautiful without the weave, right? Your attitude stinks. All the Black man wants for you is to be agreeable with him. You got hatred for him to the levels of people saying, like, when I heard the news, I bought myself a blueberry muffin and I celebrated, right? I'm happy that nigga's dead, right? Because he was destructive towards Black women, right? How was he destructive? He just wanted you to pay your man some attention. He wanted you to stop being the number one person pushing for divorce at the highest rates, unnecessary rates, or being married to a man and then phoning in and saying, I'm bored with my husband, I'm going to go with someone else, go with Pookie and Ray Ray. And he said this bad man, I'm a boss bitch, this mentality. And the also mentality of loving negativity, loving negative men that treat you like garbage. Because the man that treats you nice, women don't like that for some reason. Genetically, for some reason, they don't like a so-called nice guy, the average guy who works at Burger King making a certain amount of money. No, they don't want that guy. They want the guy that's the risk taker, the guy that's gonna get their heart going. And sometimes even if they leave a guy who was Ray Ray and Pookie and get married, they're still thinking of Ray Ray and Pookie's communal dick. They want the communal dick, bro. They want the communal dick. So, you know, Kevin was just Kevin, again, it was bigger than him. It was bigger than him, right? Woman coming on his show saying I'm like the same, I'm a 10 like Beyonce. In the sexual marketplace, if you're over 35, he was right, you hit that wall. Your biological clock is a reality for you. And stop picking on certain women like, oh, well, you know, I mean, this woman, she looks good for her age, but I look good for her age. But that ain't you. That ain't you. So Kevin did not say, you cannot call him a liar. You cannot say that in the sense of what he was saying about what you called, you know. Maybe people might say, oh, he didn't have this degree, he didn't have that, it didn't work. That's not the point. Does what he say, does it stand what he said? Right? And he only checked people who were delusional and people that didn't want to have accountability for their actions and consequences to their actions. Nothing wrong with what he was saying. And we will see he'll be vindicated. And the point of the matter is, everybody he's like, I am Spartacus. I am Kevin Samuels.
Is it like the end of the Malcolm X movie? I am Malcolm X. I am Malcolm X. I am Malcolm X. Do you think
exactly the same thing? Women will never have that again, no more. Black men now know their options because they didn't want to know.
He's saying the genie's out the bottle now. The genie's out the bottle.
Yes, they wanted to hide this from us. We now have got options that they didn't want us to have. We got options. And no matter what the situation is, look at all the statistics that they prove. When they say when they do these dating charts, the most unlikely ones that people don't like are Asian men and black women. Those on the bottom of those charts to date. Wow. But the most desirable is white men, obviously, number one, but black men underneath them. Because nobody has somebody with an attitude. And look at all these shows like Hip Hop Wives show and all this thing with ratchet women pulling each other's wigs off.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So although, check this out now. So although we know clearly, right, not all black women are like that. That's not the archetype of black women. And we have feminine, educated, sophisticated, dignified, beautiful black women all over the planet. But somehow with social media and the media in general, that's not the dominant image that we see projected into the marketplace for our daughters and for our young princesses to look up to. Like you said, it's the bad B on hip hop housewives and Atlanta housewives, and they're always fighting and there's always conflict and everybody's always tough and assertive and pulling out their earrings to have a scrap or taking off their shoes and throwing it at each other or whatever. And just not like Betty Shabazz. Do you know what I mean? Not like Coretta King, just not like those women of yesteryear. Do you know what I mean? Not like the women of the Windrush who were the women of the. Let me just finish this point. The women of the Windrush, for example, who brought us up, they were no softies, but they had a certain soft side to them and certain ladylike sophistication. Yeah, they could turn it up on you if you were out of line. Everybody knows who grew up in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. Their mum from the Caribbean will tap that out. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they're very ladylike and very dignified women. They're not just pulling out their earrings and ready to fight the next woman in the marketplace and swearing and just, you know, tattooed up and whatever. They carry themselves a certain way.
100%. And you and I know, we know beautiful black women, intelligent black women. We know black women who rock their Afrocentricity and their blackness all day long, love their black man, support their black man in their community, and you know that together the black and black woman need to work together for the next generation. So these women, you notice they're not going to be attacking Kevin. They don't have no problem with Kevin. It's the minority of the other ones who are the poisonous ones, who are into the sexism, feminism nonsense, and lesbians. And there's beta simp males with them, gay guys, right? Who would also, I can tell Kevin's gay because I'm gay myself. So a guy that phones you that doesn't like women anyway, and his whole thing is to talk about his anus is equivalent to a woman's vagina, because I got a hole too, right? He's gonna talk about how Kevin's gay and why women should listen to him.
That was very strange. I didn't understand that. The homosexual guy is a homosexual guy that's been the victim of homophobia, but somehow he's gonna see another heterosexual man and say, as an insult to the heterosexual man, he's gonna call him gay. That was very, very warm. And
the woman who will be applauding him for being gay, and then attacking, and at the same time attacking Kevin for being gay in the same comment.
You worked that one out.
So what we're saying is that when we're talking If the cap fit, let him wear it. If you're listening to this podcast and you are a conscious sister, a woman that loves herself, a woman that's proud of her blackness, proud of her African identity, spiritual, a woman that's not into this nonsense of six figures, blah, 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 but knows carry herself with dignity, this ain't for you. This what was in there? I mean, what was in the messages for you, but what Kevin was saying in terms of which they consider derogatory ain't for you, because that's not for you, Queen. But we're talking of but this Kevin's words fell on the other ratchets. So people who don't like Kevin have got serious mental health issues and are ratchet in nature. The women that like Kevin are wholesome, the traditional mothers that we knew growing up, right? And do not compete with their man. They complement their man. So Kevin, as he quoted many times, he has success stories of successful people who met and changed their ways because of what he said. That's why he didn't bother with the other lot. The trashy lot who are coming out now. And we don't bother with them. The high caliber man doesn't move with these type of people in these type of things. We don't invite the energy into our existence. We don't invite that energy. We're on a different planet, really, compared to those people. We're only highlighting them because Kevin talks about them. But because you and I are psychotherapists who have done the work, who've done the research, who've studied these dynamics, we're here to bring a new teaching and to develop on the high caliber man. To show that, to analyze the high value man, but just actually modify things that we feel the high caliber man brings on a different level. So if you love Kevin, everything he stood for, you will definitely be into what the High Caliber Man podcast is all about. If you miss him and you want to feel the same energy, channel the change spirit, and learn the solutions that Kevin would have come with, this is the podcast for you.
To be fair, tall order, but to be fair, I think we're going to hopefully go a bit deeper, because we're going to go into the psychology. I think this brother was absolute genius, on point, laser-like intelligence. But I think that hopefully we can bring something from the clinical world into the public domain for men and women in general, and black men and women in particular, that may help them to develop themselves, question themselves, challenge themselves, and but most importantly, develop themselves and move forward in their lives, learning how to cooperate and communicate in a more effective way.
Yeah, what's unique about the High Caliber Man is that all the data taken from recent psychological inroads and all that from, like, say, the Lancet and all the psychological periodicals, and also knowing Black history and knowing psychohistory, right? This is unique development and a new way of looking at what Kevin was doing. So it's actually taken it to the next level where Kevin may have gone if he was a clinical psychologist. But this is